Hi boys and girls, this is Mrs. Kimball. I hope everybody's doing well today. I am giving you guys a great big wave. You know I always love to start every Envirothon class with a wave. I realize you can't see me, but just kind of imagine me doing that for you. Today we're going to read an article about the spotted sandpiper. The spotted sandpiper is a member of the shorebird family, and we're going to learn some characteristics that are general to the shorebird family and specific to the spotted sandpiper. So let's begin by looking at the 5 boxes on top of the article that Envirothon always provides us with. The first box is actually a picture of the sandpiper silhouette. And when we look at the silhouette of a bird, we don't have any colors to identify it with. We just have this black and white picture. So we have to look for defining characteristics. And in this case, the long legs and the long beak are those defining characteristics. As we move to the second box, we see that long probing beak. So the beak on the sandpiper is called a probing beak. Right next, we see those long, thin feet that he has. And then following that, we see that the sandpiper is a ground nester. That means that they create their nest on the ground. And lastly, they are diurnal, which means they are active up and about during the day. All right, let's begin the article. Sandpipers are small to medium-sized wading birds that we most often associate with shorebirds, but they can be seen throughout Pennsylvania's wetlands, marshlands, and along the shorelines of our lakes and rivers. Sandpiper bills and necks are longer and more slender than plovers. The killdeer, a bird we're going to be studying next, is a common plover. They feed on insects, crustaceans, mollusks, and worms, probing the soft soil with their bill at the shallow edges of marshes and ponds. Depending on the length of their bills and legs, the areas they search for food vary among the different species of sandpipers. So boys and girls, I want to point out a couple things that are very, very important, and if you need to pause the video at this point, that's perfectly fine with me. I want to show you that we've now learned where the spotted sandpiper lives. He lives in wetlands, marshlands, and along the shorelines of lakes and rivers. So that's your habitat answer to that worksheet that I assigned you for homework. Secondly, we've also learned that the spotted sandpiper, sandpipers in general, are carnivores. They feed on insects, crustaceans, mollusks, and worms. So again, if you want to look at their eating habits, their diet on that worksheet, you can fill that answer in right now. So go ahead and pause, fill those answers in, and then we'll continue. All right, boys and girls, welcome back. I hope you had a chance to fill those first couple of things in on your worksheet. I have provided you with a picture of the spotted sandpiper. I think he's an adorable looking bird. And obviously the fact that he's called a spotted sandpiper probably has something to do with those brown dark spots on his chest. All right. But what we're going to learn about those dark brown spots is they actually disappear during breeding season. So they are there the rest of the year, but during breeding season they do not exist. All right, let's move around the sandpiper and see what we can learn about him. He has a long probing beak. We did just learn about that, and I put a star next to it because in general, shorebirds have long probing beaks. An identifying mark on this spotted sandpiper is that large white ring around his eye. All right, and then follow that with a white eyebrow and a dark brown eye strip. So white ring around the eye, a white eyebrow, and then that dark brown strip that cuts right through the eye. He also has a pointed tail, and we're going to learn as we move along that he does something interesting with that tail. The next thing that I want to point out is his long, thin legs and toes. I put a star next to that because, once again, that's a characteristic of all shorebirds. And lastly, the spotted sandpiper is a carnivore. We talked about that on the previous page. The sandpiper enjoys eating a variety of invertebrates, invertebrates being our insect family. We're talking about a species with no backbone, and small crustaceans, and is able to pick up an insect out of the air. He's also one to grab an insect that might be sitting on a leaf. So he has some different techniques besides probing in the mud to get himself some food. The sandpiper is a member of a group of birds known as shorebirds. Shorebirds are easily recognizable by their long probing beaks and long legs. All right, let's move on to the next page. Over 20 species of sandpipers and plover migrate through Pennsylvania each spring and fall. And on a rare occasion, a strong storm may blow one in from one of our neighboring coastal states. But only 3 species breed in the Commonwealth: the killdeer, the spotted sandpiper, and the upland sandpiper. I underlined the killdeer and the spotted sandpiper because we're studying both of those species. We are not studying the upland sandpiper this time, but I'm sure we will in the future. Let's skip the fun fact for a minute and let's move on. The most common sandpiper in Pennsylvania is the spotted sandpiper, about the size of a very plump robin. So boys and girls, head out, take a look at a robin, get an idea of that size. But with longer legs, spotted sandpipers teeter and bob as they search the water's edge for food. When taking flight, they fly over the water, alternately flapping their wings and then gliding off with stiff wings. So boys and girls, I'm going to step back to that teeter and bob. I talked to you about the pointed tail in the previous slide. Teetering and bobbing means that they are moving that pointed tail up and down. And it's something that spotted sandpipers do all the time. It's always teetering and bobbing, moving up and down. Scientists don't really know why this happens, but it is a trait of the spotted sandpiper, not only as an adult, but it's also a trait in their young. They also do the same teetering up and down. As they get a little more frightened, that teetering moves a little more quickly. They bob up and down even more quickly. But when they are in imminent danger, when they are completely frightened, oddly enough, the teetering stops. I'm guessing maybe they think if they hold still, no one can see them, but I don't really know. All right, let's go to that last paragraph. Females initiate the nesting season, arriving at their breeding grounds earlier than the males and taking on responsibility of establishing and protecting her territory. But the male actually incubates the eggs and cares for the young. Eggs are laid in grass or moss-lined scrapes on the ground. The precocial chick teeters just like the adults shortly after hatching. So again, this is going to be a great time for us to stop and pause because now I've just told you about their nest. So in their nesting habitat, they lay their eggs in a grass or moss-lined scrape on the ground. So they use those long toes, those sharp nails. They scrape a little depression in the ground. They line it with grass or moss, make it nice and soft, and that's where they're going to lay those babies. Now here's the thing about those eggs. When they build this nest, they are trying to build it so it's a little bit concealed. So they would prefer to build it closer to a shrub, something that's going to conceal them ever so slightly. So if you want to pause and write down their nesting habit is a scrape in the ground filled with grass or moss, you can go ahead and do that. So great time to pause. All right, boys and girls, welcome back. I'm going to guess that some of you did pause to write down what their nesting habit was. Now, let's go back to that fun fact. We read about it in the paragraph, but let's read it again. Fun fact. In the world of the spotted sandpiper, the roles of males and females are reversed. The female courts the male and defends the nesting territory. So normally the male courts the female, but in the world of the spotted salamander, in the world of the spotted sandpiper, the female courts the male. The male, by contrast, incubates the eggs and nurtures the young. So the male is the one that sits on the eggs, keeps them warm, and waits for them to hatch. The females are larger than the males, though their coloring is the same. And interestingly enough, when the male is incubating the eggs, the female takes off and looks for another male to breed with. And the female is apt to breed with 2 or 3 different males during a breeding season. But the good news is the males are taking care of the eggs, so she has the time to go off and go breeding. All right, let's move to the next page. All right, boys and girls, I pulled some pictures in of the sandpiper. I wanted to show you what the nest does look like. So the female sandpiper scratches out a nest on the ground and protects her territory before laying eggs. The male sandpiper incubates the eggs and cares for the young. So if I had to guess right now, I would be saying that's a male sandpiper. He's sitting in that nest, he's keeping those eggs warm. There could be chicks, I'm not sure, but he is busy taking care of the nest. He's being a very good father. Sandpiper chicks are born precocial, meaning they are covered in down feathers and their eyes are wide open. Precocial chicks are ready to take on the world from day one. We're going to learn that some chicks, when they hatch from their eggs, they're naked, they're blind, they can't see anything, and they really depend on their parents. That's not the case with the spotted sandpiper. They are ready to jump into the world. They can walk and feed themselves almost immediately, and they're expected to do that. They're expected to find that food, though the male will stay with them for a little while they're getting the hang of things. So let's take a look down at those bottom 2 pictures. Generally, the female spotted sandpiper lays 4 eggs. And how about that? The eggs are spotted as well. So there's that depression in the ground that she's lined with some leaves, some feathers, some grass. It looks nice and comfy for them. And then if we look over at this one, we see that grass coming up. That's where she's hidden her nest. So it's hidden a little back off the beaten path. She's hoping that those long grasses will camouflage the fact that there are eggs right behind them. So she's done a good job. All right, let's move to that next page. Pennsylvania is not known for its shorelines, at least not the shorelines you associate with the ocean. But we have lots of large rivers in the state, and our northwest corner borders Lake Erie. You know, Lake Erie is one of the 5 Great Lakes, and we border that. Any muddy or sandy edge of a body of water can be considered a shoreline, and that's where you'll find most shorebirds. So if you're near a lake or a river and you see some long-legged, long-beaked animals, there's a good chance you're looking at a sandpiper. And it's going to be a spotted sandpiper if you can see that teetering going on, because that's really the big characteristic to spot one of those out in the wild. So whether you're at the ocean or you're at a lake or a river and you're on the shoreline, you're probably going to be seeing sandpipers. Once again, our most common shorebird is the spotted sandpiper. They're easy to identify. When they walk along the water's edge, they teeter up and down. So again, they teeter, sort of like a slow bobbing motion of a sewing machine. Even the chicks teeter soon after they hatch. The precocial chicks follow their mother as she feeds, quickly learning how to search for food in the muddy soil in which tiny insects and crustaceans live and where they can find them to eat. If they are frightened, the bobbing gets faster. If the bird stops, If the birds stop, they stay motionless. No one seems to know why the spotted sandpiper behaves this way. So it really is an interesting characteristic of the spotted sandpiper, but again, no idea why he behaves that way. Boys and girls, I want you to take a look at the middle picture. I'm going to go ahead and enlarge this for you. Whoops, it looks like I just lost my page. That's not going to help us. I'm so sorry, boys and girls. That is not what I anticipated. All right, so let's come back here again. So there he is, the bird in the middle. I want you to take a look at those legs for a second. If you guys are like me, you may be saying to yourself, is he bending his leg backward? And the big answer to that is no, he's not. If you can see that one joint where he is bending his leg, that is actually his ankle joint. So that long part of his leg that comes after he bends that front leg, that's his foot. So picture that, like our ankle, and then our long foot. And then if you think about on the edge, those are his toes, just like we have toes. So the difference on him is that he's got a very long foot and extremely long toes. We have shorter toes. So again, that one joint that looks like it's bending backward in his leg, that's actually his ankle bone. All right, let's go ahead to our next page. Different types of sandpipers practice feeding behavior known as resource partitioning. This means they can live and feed together without a lot of competition. These next two paragraphs are going to explain a little bit about what that means. Some shorebirds have long legs and some have short legs. Some have long bills and some have short bills. When they feed together, the long-legged, long-billed birds can wade further out in the water and find small creatures deeper in the soil because of their physical features. The short-legged, short-billed birds feed beside them, finding small creatures in the shallower water and closer to the soil's surface. Many other kinds of birds practice resource partitioning too. So what that's saying is, based on their size, taller birds can actually feed further out. Shorter birds feed much, much closer. And because of that, they don't get in each other's way, and so they're not fighting for the same food source. So the great thing about resource partitioning is you can have different kinds of sandpipers, ones with very, very long legs and very, very long beaks, and you can also have sandpipers with long yet shorter legs and a long beak compared to many of our birds, but still a shorter beak compared to other sandpipers. And they're going to feed in different spots. They can be side by side, but one is looking toward the deeper end and one is looking toward the shallow end. It's really a great thing. It's a fantastic way for birds to live together in harmony. All right, so let's take a look at that top picture on the right-hand side. The spotted sandpiper is a carnivore, and vertebrates are a large part of its diet. So there you go. There's an example of the spotted sandpiper with an invertebrate. That poor dragonfly, he is about to be a meal. All right, and then look at the bottom. The chick is covered in soft, downy feathers. Remember we said they're precocial, so they're born covered in these soft, downy feathers, and they're born with those eyes open. We see one in the middle emerging from the nest, and we see one on the edge just walking along as he's getting a little bit taller. Note as well, boys and girls, they don't have the spots. They're not born with the spots, but they do have the white ring around their eye. They have the white eyebrow, and they have that dark brown strip going right through their eye. So they still have a few identifying characteristics. Precocial chicks, though the spotted sandpiper chick does not have spots, it has some telltale signs of its parent. And this is what I was just pointing out to you. The chick has a white eye ring around its eye, a black strip through its eye, long legs, and he's just a smaller version of the adult probing beak. So let's zoom right in on him one more time. We can see that probing style beak. We can tell by the shape that it's a probing style beak. We can take a close look at that eye. We're seeing that white eye ring. We're seeing that dark brown or black strip going right through the eye. And we're seeing the very characteristic long legs. And again, long legs relative to the body size and how high he is off the ground. All right, boys and girls, well, that is all about the spotted sandpiper for now. We will go over more in class, and I plan to show you guys a video of the sandpiper bobbing or teetering up and down. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got your worksheet filled out. We tried to give you some good information there. Look forward to seeing you in class. Bye.